Now here's a nice little graphic describing when we are going to have required communications to governance. And these are just different instances of this, right? The auditor's responsibility is expressing an opinion. Internal control is part of planning, assessing that internal control. And the audit doesn't relieve management of their responsibility. This is going to be the auditor's responsibility to communicate this to governance. We've got additional requirements for issuers. If you're an issuer, you're dealing with the PCAOB, you're dealing with public companies, you are going to communicate all critical accounting policies, material alternative gap accounting treatments, if we're doing cash basis or international standards, other material communications, just a nice catch all there. And lastly, discussing and providing a draft of the auditor report. In regard to plan scope and timing, we want to communicate significant risks that will be addressed, our planned approach toward internal controls, any factors going into materiality. Now, this is important because we don't ever tell the client what materiality is or anything in that realm, but we could tell them factors that led toward our determination of materiality. Right? Materiality is a threshold we come up with independently, and we can't let them know anything about that because that's our job, is to determine what's material and what's not. Definitely need to communicate the use of any internal audit staff. First off, that we want to use them, and second off, that we did use them for help in the audit and how they helped. And lastly, we want to discuss attitudes and awareness of governance. We want to talk about the environment around with which we're auditing. Going to be pretty important there. Now, talking more about these significant deficiencies and material weaknesses. Again, we're going to talk about this much more in depth when we get to our reports, but we want to communicate these within 60 days of the audit report release date. We want to communicate previous communication not corrected and stated again. So if we have anything that was not corrected and now we're restating it, yes, we're going to communicate that. We want to communicate other deficiencies to management only. And lastly, the auditor may not report a lack of significant deficiency, but can report lack of material weakness. We'll build upon that much more in our audit reports. Lastly, regarding significant audit findings, we want to report the views of qualitative aspects of accounting policies. These are the estimates, the particular instances where we may have disagreements with management, or there's just something that has a level of subjectivity. Any significant difficulties in the audit, just a nice recap of what we've been seeing here throughout. We want to communicate uncorrected, non-trivial misstatements, any material corrected misstatements, any representations on anyone's part, management consultations with other auditors, and significant issues that were discussed with management. Nice little recap, giving you a good look at what we're dealing with. All right, nice last slide to wrap up here, and then we'll send you on your way. Make sure you're stretching, make sure you're drinking coffee, make sure you are having the energy you need to get through this. Communication between the auditor and the client should be addressed from the auditor to management and those charged with governance. How do we address it? There we go. During an audit, an auditor must communicate to both management and those charged with governance any significant deficiencies and material weaknesses. Yes, I'm beating this to death, but this is something that if you don't get this right in the test, I will lose my mind. And I will know. I'll know, so make sure you memorize that. During an auditor must communicate to those charged with governance any fraud detected within management, regardless of materiality, because that's indicative of larger problems. If even small fraud there, that would be a problem. Any disagreements with management over items that are material or significant to the financial statements, whether or not these disagreements were resolved. An overview of the plan, scope, and timing of the audit. Just communicate when you're going to get your job done. This includes preliminary views on key audit matters and plans for using internal audit members or specialists. And lastly, any significant adjustments to the financial statements that arose from the audit. You're hired to do a job, you got to report what you found. Lastly, here, during an audit, when an auditor communicates significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in writing, the report should include the definitions of these, right? And we'll see this in our reports lesson, where we are going to define, per the AICPA, what are material weaknesses and what are significant deficiencies. We want to emphasize that the audit was conducted to report on the financial statements and not to provide an opinion on internal control. That would be an integrated audit. We have a lesson there. And then we want to indicate that the report is restricted use only for management and those charged with governance. We don't want the investors to see these significant deficiencies, material weaknesses. This report is restricted in use only to management and those charged with governance. All right. Again, make sure you're stretching. Make sure you've got a good old smile on your face, because I'm having a good time. I'm hoping you're having a good time. And with that being said, let's wrap it up here. Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.